What's up, guys? Rick here with my top 5 sleepers for this week's Bermuda Championship. And I was scrolling through the player pool for this week, and they all look like sleepers to me. This field is a bit weak, so I'll do my best to find some even deeper sleepers, guys. I don't know, under 8,000, maybe outside 30, 40, maybe 50 to 1 on the betting board. I'll do my best to point out a couple of names that I think are interesting and worth a discussion. Keep in mind, if you want to have a discussion, if you want to do a Q&A, if you want to look at ownership and final thoughts, Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time on the Rick Run Good YouTube channel will be the Bermuda Championship live chat, so don't miss out on that. The room already exists, so you can go over there, you can drop a question, you can set a reminder, make sure that you get an email when I do go live so that you don't miss out on anything. I know those have been valuable and they've been a lot of fun the last couple of weeks, so we're going to keep them rolling. All right. That's it for the intro. Let's jump into this week's sleepers. I'm going to start with Justin Suh, who is $8,700 on DraftKings, and he is 55 to 1 to win the Bermuda Championship. And I still think that's a sleeper. Outside of 50 to 1, yeah, I think that counts. Here's the thing. Remember when all these guys came out of college? I mean, the graduating class of Justin Suh, Victor Hovland, Matthew Wolff, and Colin Morikawa, I mean, those other three have gone on and have already had so much success in their young careers. Suh has been a little bit slower. In fact, he's missed like 12 of his first 13 cuts on the PGA Tour. But what's notable is his last two events. He finished 14th at Corrales Punta Cana, and he finished 8th at the Shriners. Now, that Shriners start, that's his last start. He gained nearly 6.5 strokes on approach. It's by far the best event of his young career. If that continues, he's going to be just fine. He's going to contend in a lot of tournaments. He's going to pile up top 10 finishes, especially in fields like this. The only issue that I have is, the Punta Cana finish was great, but there wasn't any shot link data there. So I don't know really what he did or how he did it. I would love to see if he had back-to-back starts of great ball striking. That would make me even more optimistic. So unfortunately, we don't have the laser data, but if this is starting to turn the tide on his career, I think it's really interesting. This field is super weak, and what I'm trying to be early on Justin Suh as opposed to late, right? If he goes out and starts piling up top 10s all over the place, he's going to get more expensive when you get him in a field as weak as this one. So trying to catch him, trying to use a very small sample size and maybe predict what is to come for him, but he's the first sleeper for this week's Bermuda Championship. Next up is Patrick Rodgers. Yeah, and I say it with a smile. We'll talk about it. $7,900 on DraftKings, 66 to 1 to win outright. And I get it. The last 2 weeks, or 2 starts, I should say, for Patrick Rodgers have gone very poorly. He missed the cut in both, especially at the Sanderson. He was very fairly popular. I can't remember his ownership at the Shriners, but I still think he carried some ownership there. And that stretch, the 2 straight missed cuts, that broke a streak of 6 consecutive cuts coming in, and he was leading into those 2 events with an 11th place finish at Corrales. And what he lost was the putter, right? He lost 2.7 strokes at Sanderson. He lost 6.8 at the Shriners, but he's historically a very good putter. In fact, he gained strokes in 6 consecutive events before that stretch, and he gained strokes in 16 of his 18 before that. So I really think that with a couple of weeks off, with a historically bad putting performance from a guy that is long-term a much better putter and a very good putter on the PGA Tour, I think it's okay to give him one more crack at this. If he misses another cut here and loses 5 strokes putting, all right, we can write him off for a while and something is gone. I just think this is a really interesting situation, especially with the time in between now and the Shriners, that there was probably a lot of work put in on that putting stroke, and I think he gets back into form. So Patrick Rodgers, again, 66 to 1. He is $7,900 on DraftKings. I will give him one more chance. Wesley Bryan, 7,800 and now 50 to 1. He has caught some steam. I think I got him at 90 earlier. It might have been 80. But he has already caught some steam since this number came out. Let me check a couple other sites. I'm going to try to see if I can get him at a better number here. Wow, 50 in 2 separate places. I think that's interesting, and I think it's well warranted because I made the case on the full DFS preview pod that if there was ever a time to play Wesley Bryan, it is right now. Now, outright might be a little aggressive, but obviously the salary on him is not going to change between now and Thursday. And here's what you have. You have a guy who is historically terrible off the tee, lost strokes off the tee in 17 consecutive events, has suddenly figured something out. I mean, he's not great off the tee, but he has gained a tiny bit in 4 straight. So he goes from losing 17 in a row to gaining 4 in a row. Something has flipped for Wesley Bryan. His iron game, his approach game, still phenomenal, or good enough. And then the putting stroke can get hot at times. It's hit or miss. That's fine. He's Wesley Bryan. Then you put him on what is essentially the shortest course he's probably going to play all season long for a guy who ranks outside the top 200 in driving distance. Everything I said on the DFS preview still applies. He's catching steam in the market, which might make him a better DraftKings play. Probably will be popular if this continues for the rest of the week, but that salary obviously not going to be changing on him like his betting odds will. Really good spot. We would call this a spot start in other sports. Really good spot start for Wesley Bryan here at the Bermuda Championship. Doug Ghim, 70 to 1. And $7,100 on DraftKings. And I think he firmly falls into a category of players where I think there's a lot of them. There's probably 5 of them in this field in Bermuda this week where they're, young, talented golfers whose games are maturing at different rates. Matthew Wolff was warp speed. Christopher Ventura, a little bit slower, right? Doug Ghim, kind of in the same boat where he's going to be volatile. He has, in his last 9 starts, he's missed the cut 5 times, but in his other 4, they've all been top 25. So when he plays well, he plays really well. Also, what I love to see is that in each of his last 5 events, and the last 4 have been even better, he's gained strokes in ball striking. That's off the tee plus approach. In fact, the 23rd place finish that he's coming off of at the Sanderson Farms, he gained strokes in all 4 categories. He's starting to round into form. He's starting to mature. Things are coming a bit easier for him, and I think he's got this little bit of a popper mentality in him. When things start to go well, they continue to go well. I think that he's a really interesting play at 7,100. He alleviates a lot of that salary cap concern if you want to play some of the guys at the top. I don't know if he can actually win it at 70 to 1. Maybe a top 10 might be better. Maybe a top 20 is something that we'll take a peek at in the betting preview. But Doug Ghim feels like someone who's going to come in at a fairly low ownership. We'll check that again on Wednesday and can really fly you up the leaderboard if he finds a way to finish like tied for 8th or something like that at the Bermuda Championship. And then we're going way down the board. Michael Gligic. He is 125 to 1 to win this golf tournament. He is $6,500 on DraftKings. So he's, $500 away from the dead min price. And I mean this with all the respect in the world for Michael Gligic's game. He's basically a tour average player. He's very, very average. He is within a 0.2 of a stroke of average in each of the 4 strokes gained categories. He's plus 0.14 off the tee. He's minus 0.09 on approach, minus 0.08 around the green, and minus 0.18 putting. He is basically a tour average player within a 0.2 of a shot. And what I like about that is while he is a very, very average player, he's being priced as if he is a below average player, especially on DraftKings. $6,500, it's almost that's a disrespectful price for a guy who's average. He should be like $7,700, right? And he had that really notable miscut at Punta Cana because I was helping steam this guy because he had made so many cuts in a row, but I think he's now like, he's made like 5 of his last 6 cuts. He finished 27th at the Shriners, 37th at the Sanderson Farms. Those are his last 2. He's just someone that I think offers a bit more safety. You're not asking him to do all that much. You're asking him to make the cut at $6,500. And if you look at some of the guys also in this price range, I mean, they are either prolific losers in one category or another or overall, or they have like a huge flaw in their game. You can find guys that are average, but like, Brandon Hagee loses a half a stroke per round on approach. So I just think when you compare him to his peers, he's a bit mispriced. I think he's very clearly the most solid of these sub, $6,600 guys, which, there's not a lot to hang your hat on, but I think Gligic is the one that gives you at least the best chance of making the cut. There you go. It's ugly. It ain't pretty. A bunch of sleepers for a field that is just filled with sleepers, right? I mean, any one of these guys would have been a sleeper. Zalatoris would have been a sleeper in some weeks. Varner, these guys are now your favorites. So I hope that I was able to point out a couple of names that might give you a bit more interest. Let me know if there's anybody else that I missed. Tweet me at RickRunGood or comment below. Best of luck this week, and I'll talk to you guys soon.